Hi everybody. By everybody I mean gradually decreasing number of viewers, but that doesn't matter. We're hardcore today. We're in a 1991 McLaren-ish Formula 1 car, and I've just enjoyed myself so much over the last too many days, too many gallons of sweat. And I hope you will forgive me for keeping the engine audio a little loud in this one. While we are doing some laps at Imola, old school Imola, with the big scary downshifts and curbs. Got a lift for the upshifts, blip for the downshifts, and you gotta do it properly-ish, otherwise you won't get the gear. That will happen a few times. If I'm too quick on the upshifts or too stupid on the downshifts, we'll be left with no gear while heading into the concrete here. So, what is the best era of Formula 1 is a stupid question. Racing in general has been amazing pretty much in every era. Whether it's the very early days in the 20s with the Bentley blowers and the Bugattis, then the 30s with the auto unions, and post-war with the beautiful Maseratis with Fangio, Mercedes. The very sleek 1.5 liter Formula 1 cars of the 60s. Beautiful. A 65 Pr0n. Oh, amazing. Then the power came back in 66, basically 67, with 3 liters, 400 horsepower. Hard to dislike a Lotus 49 or a beautiful Eagle Westlake. Then downforce, 1968. Many accidents, sadly, because the wings were mounted, let's say, a bit insecurely. And then somebody had the bright idea to use tires without tread on them, slicks, as I spit a scary amount towards my monitors. Slick tires for more grip. The wings now firmly attached mostly to the chassis. And then downforce grew and the rear tires became huge. Amazing mid-70s Formula 1. Then Colin Chapman had an idea about turning the whole car into a big wing with ground effect. So downforce sort of doubled in 1978-79. Skirts came along, and the under tray of the car sucked it down. Grip was enormous, G-forces were very high. And then, I think, okay, let's just a brief moment here. Let's interrupt the history lesson. You may have noticed I did not spin or oversteer. I think we're running traction control. Cut! Resuming this history lesson from the pits, because definitely no traction control or ABS was on. Where were we? Ground effect, yes. Ah, yes. Early 80s ground effect cars, lots of grip. And then the Italians got angry and ground effect was not so functional on their huge flat 12 engines. So it was the no TC. That's my TC check. Do it every lap. Too much throttle. See what happens. Big arguments. Not the most pleasant time in Formula 1 there in 82, I think. So no more ground effect at some point. Flat bottoms. But then the French, they always have something up their sleeves. Well, they were trying it since 1977. But that whole turbo thing, which people laughed at, sort of got out of control. So we lost the skirts, we lost a lot of downforce, and then the turbo started to... oh yeah. They gave Formula 1 a little bit of power in the mid-80s. Perhaps a little bit romanticized. But in qualifying in 86 you would have over 1200 horsepower. But none of the technology to put all those 1200 horsepower actually on the road. It was getting a bit out of control. So no more turbo in 1989, I think. But the cars, they were now all made from carbon fiber, getting lighter and lighter. The engines were probably getting a bit lighter without all the turbo bits and pieces that you needed. So the minimum weight was 505 kilos at this point ish, without a driver. So perhaps 580 kilos with a driver and helmet and something like that. 580. That is so light, because next year at the start of the race in 2022 the cars will weigh 900 friggin' kilos, and that just makes them not change direction. They are not responsive, and they have wheelbase, limo wheelbase. But where were we? Late 80s, early 90s, naturally aspirated. Oh, the beauty of the machines. 89, 90, 91. Some of the most beautiful cars. The high nose I never really liked. So for me, 1990, 91 McLaren or the Jordan. Oh, amazing. I didn't like the sort of a little bit. Yes. Oh. Sorry, got it distracted there. That Benetton was a little bit, you know, a Chungus, but the Ferrari 89 or probably, in my opinion, some of the most beautiful cars. Sort of the last as well, because in 92, just as things were absolutely perfect, well, we got the high noses, and then with Colin Chapman no longer around, we got Frank Williams and Patrick Head being the mad scientists of the 90s. So they figured, 92, well, after John Barnard introduced the pedal shift in 89, sorry. So what I'm doing here, the heel and towing and the shifting actually started to go out of fashion in 89 with Ferrari, I believe 91, which cost them a lot of points for Williams, and then in 1992 for more teams, although age pattern shifting was probably still used up to 94 and 95 for some of the really back runners. So alright, a bit of technology there in 89 with the pedal shift. And but then the Frank Williams Patrick Head duo said, well, are we clever? Yes, we are. Let's make the suspension active. Yeah, that's a great idea. Well, we're at it. Let's add traction control. Let's add a whole bunch of stuff. So in 92 they were very dominant. With Nigel Mansell, what a character. With their actively suspended car. And an active suspension is great because aerodynamics, they rely so much on the exact ride height of the car. And the ride height changes all the time. Not so much just, you know, over bumps, but just from the aerodynamic loads. Your ride heights are changing. Going down, compressed down as the car goes quicker. And with active suspension, you just jack the car up. So it's always at ideal ride heights for maximum downforce. Excellent then, super quick with all the systems. And they dominated 92 and 93. But in 93 it was a weird year, because if you wanted to be somebody, you need an active car, and that was just out of budget for the lower teams. A very complicated technology, expensive to develop. So it was discontinued for 94, so it was a really brief period. And in 94 there was no more traction control, except maybe on a certain Benetton. And the car still had a flat bottom, but they had to get used to this idea of no longer having active suspension, so they were very tricky to drive, and it was a terrible, terrible, terrible year. That needs no explanation, of course. Then 95, pretty drastic measures, because downforce was quite high. And it's safer when you go slower, so they took a lot of downforce away, and you just have to watch Gerhard Berger at Monaco qualifying. It's on YouTube, as well as the Argentina Grand Prix with Michael Schumacher, 95-96, sliding a bit like that, but better. The 1995 cars were great from a point of view of having the least downforce seen in Formula 1 for a long time. Whoa, 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 whoa. Oh, and by now they all had pedal shift, which you just saw helps the stupid driver from making mistakes. So that's the mid-90s, and then, of course, as happens, performance gradually goes up. People get quicker and quicker, and while the systems are banned up to a point, they cannot really enforce it anymore. So at some point in the mid-2000s we have even more power, still very, very lightweight cars, 605 kilos, including the driver, and probably including quite a bit of ballast, and ballast is great. You can put it down very low and exactly where you want it, so the performance of the car with ballast doesn't suffer as much from making the car heavier just by having a heavier engine, for example. But then they went to groove tires because the speeds were getting high again, and they couldn't enforce all the traction control rules, so Formula 1 had traction control for a time, and that certainly doesn't make it easy. These were very edgy cars. I mean, you would set up a car to be more edgy with traction control. Well, it was sort of perhaps not quite as pure as before. And in my opinion, after that, say 2007-8, we got that era of just amazing engineering, where the teams got so good, so big, hydraulic diffs, engine mapping, I have no idea what they all do, super advanced, like perfectly tuned suspensions. So, in my opinion, for the last, well, 10-15 years, the engineering level in Formula 1 is so great that the cars seem to handle so well, absorb the bumps relatively well. You can see there's the hands of the drivers on the steering wheel without power steering, which sort of power steering came into play probably on the Williams in 92. Perhaps other teams had it, but you see the violence in the 1991 videos where they, you know, pretty stiffly sprung cars with big tires. They had to work it very hard and get their hands off the wheel. It was just a lot more ferocious than when power steering just made the effort a lot lower. Made it much easier for the drivers to point the car where they wanted to. There's a great story of, well, there's many stories of Nigel Mansell, where he tricked his teammate, and his teammate said, yeah, how do you keep the, you know, the kickback from the steering wheel from messing up with the car? Because in a high-speed corner you can hold the wheel, but if there's a bump, you cannot stop the wheel from shaking. And Nigel said, yeah, you have to brace your hand against something in the cockpit and then it won't move. And then the driver tried it, and of course he had a bruised hand because that's a terrible idea. But that violence went away as power steering came in, suspension and the whole engineering. You know, the driver was sort of more forgotten in the olden days, where the engineer made a car where the driver barely fit in it, could barely see the instruments, and just then had to go on with it because the aero was better with less space for the driver. But of course, drivers are really good, but if they can see where they're going and have some feel on the steering wheel, perhaps power steering, they will perform better. And the driver really got into play in the 2000s, like fitting in the car. Regulations also made it more important for a driver compartment to be a certain size, and it all became more timid with the driving age, with the technology. And if you look at Formula 1 now, they might be the quickest cars out there ever. A lot of downforce, big tires, and of course the skill required is amazing. But the driving is quite, you know, a well hooked up Mercedes or Red Bull just seems on the rails. They have so much grip, and you can also see that they struggle a lot to control slides because there's so much grip. Those corner exits barely happen. So that's my sort of very poor history lesson, where it's very hard to say what's more beautiful. I do prefer, but probably because I'm now 42 years old, the older days, just because of the manhandling of the cars that were not perfect. No power steering, making just physical, very hard. No traction control, no advanced engine mapping, just your right foot and a throttle cable. And that would mean anything up to early 90s, and just the look of these super low cars with no aerodynamic hodgepodge of little sticky out bits, just very pure, very simple. So this is one of the best eras. Okay, but wow, I've been talking to you for 18 minutes and haven't focused on my driving. So I've spent, oh yeah, there we go, a lot of time over the last week tweaking the heck out of this car. As you know, I always have an existential crisis regarding how cars should drive, how difficult should they be. I recently added to the question, what does a differential do? You know, existential stuff. But I've enjoyed this immensely, and not doing VR here because you cannot really film it. And I think I've gotten to a point where this is very hard to drive, obviously, especially at high speed, you know. These might be old cars, but they can pull more than 4G in a corner. But Senna, who I am definitely not, they could still get the tail out a little bit out of the low speed corners, and they were twitchy at times, and we'll do a lap of Hockenheim later. Oh, those quick chicanes. Very, very scary stuff. And you see there, what I've had in the past is, yeah, sometimes the back steps out, but it steps out quite violently and suddenly. And you can catch it. But that doesn't mean, oh, did I just spit ferociously on? Yeah, it's not too bad. Okay. That doesn't mean that's realistic in the sense that the only opposite lock you can have is big moment. Ideally, of course, you have corner exits where that, like feeding in the power like that. If you're a stupid idiot and you go flat out, you spin. But if you feed it in, you should also be perhaps possible. Now, I'm not saying that I should be able to do it, but to get the back to step out, but not hugely so, right? So you don't get a big snapback, it's just sort of a control, still pretty quick lap despite the slide. So that's a bit much, but it's quite easy. However, at high speed, with the downforce, you know, that Downforce is just like a scary hand of God that can position the car somewhere where you don't want it to be real quick. So expecting to slide the car like this, very twitchy at high speed, I don't think that's doable. And as always, when I'm talking and driving, the driving suffers, and the talking was never any good to begin with. And the braking is just so hard when you've got a heel and toe. It's impossible for me to keep a constant brake pressure, so my braking suffers. And I'm sometimes go for fewer downshifts, but it also messes with the brain. I'm used to going to 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. But that means many blips and many sort of fluctuations on the brake pedal. Oh, this is such a quick corner. So that's also part of this era starting to go away in 91. The skill of shifts. You see many missed shifts, even Senna missed shifts here at Imola. I'll replicate that now. So he goes here, second, fifth, third, you know, Senna had that. So I shouldn't be too guilty when I have the same problem. But those mistakes, you know, that's the moment in a race under pressure where if you make a mistake on your upshift, well, just watch the historic Monaco Grand Prix where Jean Alesi drove a very expensive 75 Ferrari and he was missing an upshift, and a very expensive Lotus hit him in the back, and it was all very, very, very expensive. But a missed shift, you know, that's an overtaking opportunity. And when do you make more mistakes? Well, under pressure, of course. So that skill element of manual shifting, blipping, is what made that era so great for me. And again, that doesn't take anything away from modern F1. It's just over-engineered, and the drivers are overly well prepared. They don't drink enough beer, I think, except Kimi. See, that was just very little bit of oversteer, but not like a big slide. That's what I like about the car now. At low speed, the slides are pretty much more, oh, that's not great, or controllable. By careful application of throttle, not by being an idiot. Because if I'm an idiot, okay, exit, well, say, you know, it's not like the car is easy to control or doesn't spin. But if you feed it in, you can get to that point where it becomes a little unstable, but isn't a big moment all of a sudden. So I've been enjoying this immensely, and I thought it was time to do a little video about that, but I haven't really done a good lap yet. This is a default setup, I think, with a bit lower wing, because it's such a long straight here. We go a bit quicker. I think for our tires, well, going by the videos, it seems like this chicane is a little tight in AMS compared to what it was in 91. But I can do 23s-ish with these tires. And Senna did a 21.8. So I think I'm giving the car a little bit too much grip and speed for me to be able to do a 23. Even though the last chicane is a bit slower. Oh, beautiful. But let's say this is roughly equivalent to qualifying tires that don't wear currently. Oh. Missed shift there. Costs you a lot of time. Short shift. I sometimes use the clutch for a short shift because I'm not sure if I'm going to lift enough. Fifth gear. 4, 3, 2. Missed one. Still good. And during a race, see, now I'm not braking at the limit. It's quite controllable. Everything is until you approach the limit. Just keep it in fifth. And see what we can do. Like, if we can do a 24, I don't think we can. I'm too excited talking to you. And by you, I mean the ever-decreasing number of people watching my videos for some reason. Not enough cats. I tried a squirrel, but... I was a little nervous. I wasn't sure what I was going to do, but it was quite well behaved. Much curve. Apex. Oh. You see what happens? You get over optimistic and don't lift enough during the upshifts, and then gearbox says no. Still 25.4. And now with the bad gear shifts we're already way behind. See, that's so natural, like it's not what I'm used to, big opposite lock. Here it is third gear, a lot trickier. But it's beautiful out of the slow corners. There is a bit of understeer sometimes. Especially here, very easy to, can't get it in. Have to be a bit patient there. These cars have quite a bit of weight over the rear tires. I think, no data. Let's do one more lap here, hopefully up to 24, which is decent. And before you ask, no, the brake pedal is set to about 80 kilos. And the steering only to 15 Newton meters, so I am doing it in pussy mode. Steering will be a lot heavier as with the brake pedal. Let's see. I just want to survive doing laps reasonably well in control and also talking to you, so it's unrealistic. Woo, unsubscribe, I guess that's where the views are going. Right, let's see. Wait. Oh, I think I missed one of the shifts, but hey. See? You can do that, but now I'm behind. But no snapback, it was quite controlled. Just very stupid, that's no apex. And that's a misshift, oh boy. Despite the lower forces on the pedals and steering wheel, I am working up a sweat here. Despite, you know, I go out for a run twice a week. I watch Formula 1 races on my exercise bike. We have a rowing machine that I sometimes look at. But even that, I just sweat a lot. Anyway, let's not talk about that. Let's see. Can we do a 24? I'll shut up for a bit. Curve on the inside. Wait, patient. Just a bit of curve. Yeah, that's not gonna be it, is it? One more go. Nope. Spinning is easy. So, yeah, that's not gonna work. Well, I'll stop my attempts on this track. But just to reiterate, downshift. It's not easy. I think, yeah. Did it on purpose. It's not a car you can easily drift, but again, being smooth-ish in second gear, it looks easy. It isn't that hard, but if you want sort of to be like a drift king, it's not that easy anymore. Let's move to Adelaide for a lap, and then some Hockenheim, and then I probably will be virtually and actually physically mostly dead. So let's do that. Right, so Adelaide, amazing track, as in tight 90-degree corners. Is it amazing from it's not Eau Rouge and it doesn't have those corners, but it's bumpy, it's close to the walls. The chicane is insane, and the cars just were all over the place. Watch the 1985-86 qualifying here. They cannot put that 1200 horsepower down. It's hilarious. And even Senna, there is onboards from 91. The camera is sort of wobbling on the car and he's working it hard. So what can we do here? I think this track is in some places a bit lenient on the bumps, and of course when you make a car like this with the physics, you also have to decide what is low downforce, what is medium downforce, what is high downforce, what levels of downforce do we have, what drag do we have, what's the top speed. So we, not now because bad exit, we might just 290, 300-ish. But what's the available range of downforce on Hockenheim and here? So that's a very tricky thing to guess. You know, minimum to maximum wings. What's the difference? No idea, no data. I'm relatively fast here, so either there's a bit too much downforce, perhaps the track lacks a bit of bumps, or I am just an Adelaide god who destroys gearboxes. I think the layout is mostly pretty good. Perhaps the first chicane, you know, you can just nail that in the sim, being very precise, which is harder in real life probably, although too much throttle. I tried to match the gears here with the Senna video. More misshifts. The quicker you want to do the shifts, and also the bigger the gap between the gears, the harder it becomes. So you lose more time with a misshift than you do waiting a little bit longer with the upshifts. So I've reduced fuel load here. Gears more or less. The same as real. Just about on the ref limiter there, down second gear. Struggle with the power. Get an apex, oh, too much throttle. A bit all over the place. Nice blips. Oh, scary corner. Brake between 150 and 100. Very slow, and then it's so easy to get that, you know. No downforce. Careful on the throttle. Now that's just all very sloppy. Easy to lock an inside there. Just on the ref limiter, just like Senna is in. Oh yeah. That doesn't mean I'm equal to Senna though. Just on the ref limiter there, hug the inside. Two very nice blips. Down a gear, oh, missed it completely. Maximum downforce, 290 something. Still missing the apex. Third gear, almost at the limiter in third. Limiter in fifth almost. 4, 3, 2. And then riding the throttle. Straight down to 4 now. You know, that would have probably been the end of your suspension then. We are driving the strong McLaren today. Important to get those blips right. You don't want to upset the rear, because that entry into the second gear corner is important. That's better. That's the thing with these cars as well. You can be right on the limit trying to be with braking, but there's a lot more to lose missing your corner entry than braking a little bit more conservatively, as he doesn't do. Straight to fourth. The rev limiter. Feeding it in. Oh, two. You see, I don't know if I should be able to do that, but at least I did lose time. But I'm still negative because we're not. This shows how far we are away from the absolute limit yet. I don't want you to think it's easy though. I mean, I've been playing this sim for 10 years. But I think it's a little too easy to do a 15 on this track here, so who knows. The car is a bit too grippy. Track is too grippy. I'm too good. Fourth gear. Let's see. Oh, too late. Hard work. Even with just 15 Newton meters, it's still getting tricky to do. Oh, yeah, I made a mess of the sort of noodle's legs trying to heel and toe there. And when you don't have drive, you do feel that there's something pretty wrong when you're braking. See if we can do it 14 before going to Germany. Bad downshifts again. 14.6. That's not an apex. Ah, missed. I'm afraid my noodle legs have stopped my ability to do 4 blips. It just happens too quickly. 4 blips at the wrong time. Oh, like I said, it's not easy. Spinning is not hard. There we are. Well, with a 14, it's not too bad. I think I'm happy enough with that. And hard work here. So much fun. Like, ooh, that balance of throttle. But yeah, again, that's what I enjoy with this car so far, with the physics and the tweaking and the subjectiveness that could be completely wrong. Is that there's less of an on-off switch for oversteer with throttle. And at that limit, you know, my instinct is almost to do an armful of opposite lock, because a lot of the time cars step out that quickly. But here it's not often that necessary, unless you're an idiot, which I've proven many times. If you feed it in, then ooh, that becomes sort of a balancing act that's less dramatic and hopefully a bit more realistic. Who knows? It's a lot of fun anyway. Let's go to Germany, and I'm very scared of Germany. So, Hockenheim. Iconic track that is no longer here. They changed Hockenheim into something meh. Still find it a fun track, and the stadium section is still historic, but I guess it's easy to complain. Minimum wings here. Depending on how hard we are bottoming out, we should do about 330 kilometers an hour. Hard on the brakes for this chicane. Always struggle there. Going on the power out of the first chicane. And now we are heading towards the scary part. Well, most of the lap is really scary. Oh, it's a bit bumpy. So down to third, and then you sort of have to take that curb. But it's a very stiff car. So that's not easy. And then not a lot of time to catch your breath, because this is a scary ass 4th gear chicane. Let's be brave. Oh, that's a bit much. Which you have to time so perfectly, but the car is moving about a little bit. It's quite nervous, and you see that in the video of Senna too. It's on edge. And that's just where, like, modern F1 is so well engineered, they're not that on edge anymore. And here it's just not always possible to do a perfect line. Anyway. Almost rev limiter in 5th gear. Down to 4th. A little wobbly. Up towards 330. I hear a lot of scraping, so perhaps slightly conservative on the brakes there. Much taller gearing there. 2nd gear goes quicker than the default setup, or at Adelaide, of course. And now, I don't really want to take the inside curve. So Senna did a 37. I can tell you we won't. Might do a 39, probably a 40 at best. Let's be brave again. Just a little less brave. Yes, oh! That's brave. With a bad ending. So the car is bouncing a little bit, the curb, and it's got low downforce, it's twitchy. And you step on the throttle in 4th gear, it's still 700 horsepower. Can still catch you out. And these are cars with a flat bottom, for which I have absolutely no data from wind tunnels or anything. But my theory is a little bit, I have no idea, that I have some time to talk on the straights. When the car bottoms out, it's a lot more area that bottoms out, whereas modern with the step bottom, there's always a left and right tunnel that's not bottoming out. So I've made the downforce go down quite a bit below a certain height. So as you bounce at high speed and the ride height goes from 0 to 2 centimeters, your downforce changes 20-30%. But what you can see with the real videos, and to some extent with this car as well, it being 580 kilos now with a little bit of fuel, 590 kilos total, shorter wheelbase, wider track, it is more like, oh, it wants to kill you all the time. With no power steering. It's a bit understeery there perhaps. Slower in, fast out, I think that should also work. Stadium section, nice banking here. Careful with the exit, because that happens. So let's go to the rev limiter. Fight the car here. Understeer, oversteer, understeer, miss the apex. Throttle, it just about accepts it, because 3rd gear is so long. Down. Oh, don't do the curb, don't do the curb. It takes a bit of getting used to after Adelaide, I'm sorry for that. Let's see if we can do that 39 at some point. It's a lot of time you have here on the straights to get worked up by the errors you made before the straight. Lovely little bit of oversteer out of the chicane there, it's just so nice. Bumpy track. Now, okay, let's be brave. Missed the shift. I feel my peak performance for whatever that means has left me. Let's do this better now. Slow it down a little bit more. Slow it down the way to that left apex. Oh, still wants to kill me. Fourth gear here. Second gear. Wait. So tricky, the stadium section. Manhandling the car, trying to get it where I wanted to go. I love what does that say about me? I love when it tries to kill me, but it just doesn't. Brake a little after the 100. Oh, not too much. Obviously, screwing the entry always means screwing the exit. a mad chicane that is. Inches from the wall. Okay, here we are again. Braking, still braking. I'm scared now. Oh, amazing. Oh, scary. So pointy. Light, alive, you know, not on rails. No throttle maps, no perfect setup. Oh. Still negative. Oh man, I love this era of Formula 1. Now I just have to go quick. We have made it. Direction changes are just instant. Short wheelbase, wide track. Well, it's not square, but it feels square compared to... What? Wait a second. Modern F1. Limousine formula. That's just the thing, you know, if it's quicker, it doesn't mean it's more exciting. Oh, I think we will die another time there. It really feels I am being driven instead of being in control. Less downforce, less braking grip. Again, 37 would be a pole position. Nope, not today, not for me. Bottled up the downshifts, but we were so far off a good time, we are still negative. I cannot do the quadruple blip anymore. And we're no longer negative. And we missed a shift, of course we do. Luckily, the easiest corner is coming up. See? No issues there. Oh man. I don't know if you want a sweat update, but I'm just mentioning the word. I won't give the update. The S word. Oh, I just spit on my screens. Again. Okay, Niels, let's see if we can do that 39 that we kind of promised. Putting us 2 seconds behind Senna. Can we be 2 seconds slower than Senna? Low downforce doesn't mean no downforce, but still got to be careful. Very little regard for the engine there. It's only a Honda, they're reliable. Little Honda engine. just so close to falling off on the left. I wonder should I take third gear, but that will be, I just about made it through in fourth, so I'll keep it in fourth. Brake all the way to the apex. Too rushed with the upshift there, missed it. Not this lap, but I'm having too much fun. Oh, because the lap is 1 minute 40. Of that time, the car wants to kill me about at least 1 minute 38 of the time. Way past the apex there. Still negative because we're a terrible driver. At the top of second gear, got a little wiggle on. I can brake later and go faster here, but it is very risky. But that's third gear. That doesn't mean flat out without a care in the world. It means near death. I'm getting a bit too scared of that corner. I'm losing time there. Ooh, nice. Slides are not a problem, big ones are. Much better. 39.9. Time to contemplate how I will mess up the next series of corners. So we lost time here. Let's go quicker. I'm already laughing because it's a risky thing. Yeah. Oh man, I could not be a little bit slower there. I mean, it's really, like with the corrections, really on edge. It's a little on the pointy side. So perhaps add one flick of rear wing, which will add drag, but we don't want that. So what I will probably do is raise the front ride height by a couple of millimeters. Moving the aero to the back a little bit. Final lap. Let's see if we can go a little quicker. Just not my best driving. Messed up all those downshifts. We're still negative though. I wish I could give you guys perfect downshifts, but I think that moment has long passed. Oh, so close to falling off. This is so cool, this braking right to the apex. We're good, we're good. That's the most granny shift that was ever done in a Formula 1 car. Oh, you just... The blips are magic. Should I do another lap? I think I will just see if I can suddenly become a perfect driver. It might happen, the stars might align. Let's see. They typically align perfectly well until turn 1 happens. Terrible, you don't want to be on the curb. Barely negative now. That corner exit is not for the curb is not to be used at all. The first apex is alright. I missed the second one and the third one. We missed it again. Oh. Thankfully on the quickest lap we were also very bad there, so we're still negative. Oh, everything. Oh, feels on edge. Crap. Oh no. It's not easy, guys. It's not easy. Oh. We're negative though. We're gonna continue. There will be a 12 terabyte video. And that's the end. Yeah. Wow, damn. Well, I hope, you know, I was really enthusiastic. I still am, despite my sort of eyes being opened once again to my skill levels behind the steering wheel, but very excited about the era of Formula 1, and I really got into it for the last week, making this car, the sounds, the liveliness, and in VR, oh my god, in VR, which AMS1 can do, get it now, pay them more, they deserve it. In VR it's even better. I got emotional a little bit with VR, because I felt, just for this bit, I felt like Senna. So talk about fooling yourself, definitely did. Yeah, that's third gear. Bad idea. So, this is amazing with triple screen, but in VR, oh my god, it's so much better still. And the sweat becomes another level once again, but anyway. I hope you enjoyed my little history lesson, for want of a better term, of Formula 1. Some laps around Imola, Adelaide, and the scary Hockenheim. And I hope you sort of felt a little bit of that control and the edginess. You can perhaps get a tiny hint of what I think this era of Formula 1 was like. I hope you enjoyed that, and gonna drink a glass of water. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye bye. See you later.